And we wanted to make sure that we had at least 5 or 6 people show up, so we thought we'd pick a subject that at least 5 or 6 people would be interested in. And that, of course, is our utility rates and utilities fund, and also our utility infrastructure. I think it's important first we have a disclaimer as what expectations are. I think everybody here wants to leave that they know a little bit more than they came in with information-wise, and I hope that's the case. We will have a handout of an interesting door prize, courtesy of me, when you leave, which I'll explain. So you want to stick around to the bitter end. The other thing is that we're on a tight schedule here. We have to vacate the premises within an hour, at the hour, so 10 minutes before the 7 o'clock, I'll try to take control again, and we will wrap it up. Now, first off, some personal information. Good news is in short supply, and so on a personal basis, I'd like to share some good news. This morning, we went to the ophthalmologist. They get confused, all these doctors, physicians, witch doctors, and faith healers. I get confused. And I learned that the surgery that I was supposed to have to clean out my eye was not going to be necessary. And so the ophthalmologist said, great, we're going to do the laser surgery this morning. So, under the weird whatever of medical science, of course, they felt necessary to dilate both of my eyes. So I leave there pretty much blind. So if I don't recognize you or call upon you, just wave vigorously, and Ms. Venteras will come with the microphone to get your input. So, besides that, my new hearing aids haven't arrived either. So, the fact that I'm blind and can't hear makes me an excellent moderator for this session. All right, now, in terms of what we have to have a disclaimer. When I'm speaking, I am speaking as, yes, I'm a councilman, but I'm not speaking for the city. I'm not representing city policy to the extent that I'm an expert in in and out of what the ordinances and so forth are. Yeah, I'm familiar with them, but again, I'm a newly minted, I'm your newly minted councilman, and so I may misspeak. In fact, a gentleman approached me with an item earlier in the evening, pointing out prices of these meters, and I misspoke on that point after I referred to the reference person who's with us tonight. So again, I'm speaking for myself. I may make mistakes, but I can assure you that we will correct them. I can also assure you that when I don't get to you, we don't have a lot of time, we get an hour, so we don't get to your question or concern. We have prepared these comment cards for you to comment your questions or input or suggestions or whatever, which will be collected as you leave. There'll be a box, empty box back there to collect them. If you don't get a comment card, if we don't have enough, I'll have my business cards, city business card also with my email, which is wch@eda.net. There's also a city address as well. And you can email me your concern, your question, or your comments. And I think the people that have emailed me in the past realize that I do respond to 100% of the people that contact me, and that's my policy, and I'll continue to do that. So, the introductions, there's some folks that I'd like to introduce that are my my resource folks here. Our mayor, Mr. Rod Woodbury, is in front here. Of course, he's a perfect person for historic perspective, because since I've only been a councilman since June, he knows what's went on before and can correct the record and also information in that regard. The other very valuable resource person is Mr. Rory Droyer, who is the administrator for our electric utility. don't know if I should say the long-suffering administrator for our electric utility, but he's the man who wears a lot of different hats and is a technical person. One of the things in preparation for this meeting, I've gotten the reports that were presented to council some time ago. One was by SAIC, which is I forgot where, he's not in the front row. Our acting city manager, Mr. Scott Hansen. Will you identify yourself? Yes. Oh, yes, and I forgot Kernan, but Kernan is here as the third city council member, so you can't say anything. Kernan is mad. There was a question about the fact that the city clerk posted an item on there regarding the fact that regarding the open meeting law, which is an interesting piece of legislation, and that since 3 councilmen would be present at the meeting, there would be a quorum, and under the law, you can't really discuss anything of deliberation regarding the things that may come before the council. So it's good to see you, Kernan. Your comments will be appreciated on the cards. All right, let's get going in terms of expectations. And expectations, we're not going to be able to solve every issue and every problem. And what I would hope to do is to gather from the people that are attending here is interesting input, comments, things that can move us along to make Boulder City a better place to live, to make things easier. Of course, we'd like to hear, yeah, we're going to rescind the rate increases, and oh yeah, we're going to divide up that capital fund and everybody will get a check upon leaving the room. But that ain't happening. That ain't happening, I can guarantee you. All right, so let's first start out with I had some questions about that people have asked why my bill is doubled, tripled, quadrupled, quintupled, or whatever. And just answer these kind of basic questions first. And one of the things is that the city, for whatever reason, decided to commit, I think, a great tactical error in terms of this last rate increase. And why would I say that? And again, I'm speaking for myself and not for the city. But I think they did some dumb things. One of the things they did is they scheduled this rate increase on one of the longest billing periods in the month. So it's going to be more expensive. They scheduled this rate increase on the hottest historical month. The hottest month is in July. They can't really blame them, but that July month also is the hottest month on record. Not only is it just the hottest month of the year. Another thing they did is they scheduled to put new meters in, and new meters were being put in. And these new meters read higher than the old meters for some people. In fact, I don't think anybody has complained about the meters reading lower. And these new meters, interesting enough, the reason why they replaced them is that they're old, and some 30 or plus years old, and they use a design that was put in place in the 1800s. They're electromechanical meters. Now the problem with that is they have moving parts, and everybody that's gone out and seen them has seen the dial moving, the aluminum dial, and they've seen all the other little dials which move much slower. Well, all those dials are mechanical mechanisms, and all mechanical mechanisms in a harsh environment, and I think we do live in a harsh environment. Anybody living through July in Boulder City knows it's a pretty harsh environment. Those lubricants over a period of time dry out that are used in the bearings and on the surface of those readers. So the meters actually read low. So when it's replaced with the new 21st century state-of-the-art all electronic meter that is 0.05% accurate, I say, oh my God, my bill went up and I didn't do anything different. Well, it's the same thing as if you went to the butcher shop in reverse, and you saw the butcher, you bought a pound of steak, and you saw, and that pound of steak also included the pressure of his thumb on the scale. Well, you're paying for some of that pressure on the thumb. Well, the reverse is true. The city was being slightly shortchanged by the fact that these meters are reading low. So you were getting electricity without paying for it in many cases. So this is why the meters, yes, they did read higher in some cases, but there's a reason for it, and it's science and it's math and it's really understandable. In fact, if you were to use the Google machine or the internet, you can confirm that that's the case. Old meters read low, and so the city was missing money essentially for electricity that's being used. So everybody wants to be fair. You don't want to be overcharged, and in some cases you were undercharged. So that's another thing regarding the meters coming at the same particular time. But the other issue regarding this rate increase is I think there was poor public preparation. Yes, there was a mailer sent out, and I asked for that mailer to reproduce tonight with some of the references for people of things to do. And it surprises me that many people don't take advantage of all the things that are available to them, especially the low-income people, fixed-income people. There's a plan in place for them to receive assistance for their electrical bill, and many people don't take advantage of that. Either they're embarrassed to do that or whatever, but they should take advantage of it. The other issue that I would have with the preparation is that there was inadequate information being given beforehand regarding the meters, regarding the timing of this event. Obviously, the best time to have this happen would have been in October or in April, when our usage is historically the lowest, and so it would have the lowest impact. Eventually, though, the piper would be paid when the July bill comes around for the next time. But the other option is that my bill, when the rate went into effect, I didn't go up 1 cent. My bill didn't change at all. And why is that? No, not because I'm a councilman. No, it's because I picked the budget plan. And so the budget plan that I've been paying a regular amount right through the rate increase turns out to be exactly the same amount. So it really is an easy way to beat the one-time increase or one-time charge or the uneven charges between, say, the month of April and the month of July. So if you don't have the budget plan or ECP plan or whatever they're calling it, I would ask that you investigate that because it can help. In fact, the one interesting thing, I received my utility bill and found that I got a credit because I overpaid for the year, even with the increase. So I got something like 64 cents or something like that, whatever. But it was an unchanged amount. So, well, let's do this. We're going to solicit, again, this is your meeting. I'm your councilman, and I'm not going to defend the indefensible. I'm here to represent you, and we'll hope to take away from this meeting and bring the city council some suggestions and improvements. And I'm sure that Mr. Dwyer is happy to hear things that he could apply in the administration of the utility. But let's open this up now to questions from the audience. And let's see, Sue, you got 90 seconds to state your case. And what we want to do is not have anybody.
I will hold the microphone, folks.
Yeah.
I will hold the microphone, and we will start it because we are in a time constraint, so go for it. Okay, so I emailed you.
Can you speak up? Speak closer to the.
My name is Dominique Pfeiffer. I had emailed you about a problem that I had seen, which was the billing days in a month. Some people that I talked to actually had a 15-day billing month, and then another month they had a 35-day billing month. And if we're being charged per month at a tier pricing, sometimes those 35 days could push you up past the 2,000. So I was wondering what we could do to try to get to more monthly billing day cycles so that, we're on a tier, so that we're not pushed into the higher tier during the summer months for 35 days.
Okay, thank you. Again, the question was the disparity in billing dates. So some people have, in fact, you're not the only one that's experienced that. People have talked about billing periods ranging from 22 days to 34 days. And when I heard that, I thought, yeah, that's right. In fact, I went and looked at my July bill and saw that I'm being pushed into the tier because of the extra days on my bill. I think it was a $5 premium or whatever, but still, $5, you know, that'll buy a coffee at Starbucks, I think, still. But and you're right, so I found out who the right person would be, in finance and utility, and they said, you know, the reason for that has been the fact that our meter readers are 10-hour shift for what went on, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that doesn't really solve the problem. However, meter readers are probably going to be in a severe reduction here because of the fact that with the new RF-enabled meters, supposedly from the propaganda from the meter company that sold it to us, you can read 5,000 meters in a day. So that means a day and a half we should be able to get it done. I doubt that that's going to be the case, but that problem may be eliminated by the new meters. But right now, that doesn't eliminate the problem. So what do we do to eliminate the problem? The problem is a real one, and the fact is that this has happened. So I asked about it, and they said, well, what we need to do is we need to modify the software. And there was a cost of $1,400 a day software development charge because it's a unique situation to go to the unified billing. So the point has been made, the issue has been raised. Now I guess it's up to council and finance and people to work together is what will be the, and I did not ask for a firm quote from the software company, it's Munis. And, but there will be a request, I believe, in the future for a firm quote, because it doesn't make sense to have crazy billing periods. It just isn't right for people to 1 month have to pay a tier surcharge and then the next month not, just because the city software doesn't comply with what people are expecting.
Yes.
So, second question, that's in process. Mr. Neptune.
Family here. Yeah, well, I had a stem-winder of a speech, but we got to cut it short. We got 90 seconds, so I'm going to get right to it. My concern about is utility issues. I'm not getting into the details of the problems that people have. What I want to look at is what we can do going forward to prevent some of the issues and problems that we've been experiencing in the future. How can we avoid it? And it's all about process. So with this in mind, I'm proposing that we create a Boulder City Utilities Commission for the specific purpose of working on these issues. Now, the goal would be the City Council would seek out and appoint 7 most technically capable people we have available to us. And they would take under advisement all of the issues concerning utilities, whether it's rates or build out or whatever, before these issues get to the City Council. And it's really important to point out that this is designed to help the city. This is a think tank of sorts that can provide a broad interface to the general public, but also to help the city leaders, the staff as well as the City Council. It's for them. We shouldn't be thinking about this as a criticism of any sort, but a recognition that the city needs more help. The city doesn't have enough staff. We have part-time City Council by design. And there's only so many hours in a day. So with a technical layer in between, I think we can accomplish a lot to prevent a lot of these mistakes in the future, or at least consider them careful.
Okay, thank you. You're not the only person that has brought that to my attention as an idea. And I think it's much worth consideration from the standpoint of having a second look and having a citizen second look. The only thing that I would modify in terms of you talked about a 7-person board, is that it not be all technical people, that it not, there we include some, say, firemen and some
realtors,
other folks from the general populace to have that input as well. But I know I've been looking at some of the reports that were submitted to City Council in the past, the SAIC report, which at any point in time you find yourself, you want to stay up all night long and shaking in terror. this is the report, you get a copy of it and read. It's basically an analysis, technical analysis of our shortcomings of our electric utility. The other report is one that it's kind of a good match because it will put you to sleep in about 5 minutes, which is the compendium about justifying the rate increase, which I found, I read through it, and I've got a doctorate and I had a hard time comprehending what the point was of this thing. So we do need to have input from other sources other than the supposed experts from the outside that are based here in Boulder City that may have other experience. And I would very much appreciate that the next step perhaps out of this town hall is we create an ad hoc committee where we don't require council action or a city charter change or whatever to get a group of individuals together to carry some information forward. But I agree wholeheartedly with your idea. Sue? Linda.
I'll start talking. My name is Linda Barnett. My name is Linda Barnett. I'm going to keep it short. I had a whole list of stuff that's happened with our utility fund. Pretty unbelievable, including, paying out of the utility fund, out of court settlements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll just keep it a little shorter. I've lived in Boulder City since 2005. Frankly, I'm alarmed at what's happening here. The time has come for some honesty and transparency on the part of the city. A statement of account for how the utility fund is managed and an explanation of the uses of the money that the money is put to are long overdue. The same, let me take that out. As residents of Boulder City, we deserve an explanation, and we deserve to have it in plain English. Boulder City provides residents with utility services. The city is a not-for-profit municipal corporation. Oh, well, I'm going to have to skip that. We've got a lot of money, okay? So what I'm asking Councilman Harhay is two things to bring back to the council. First, that there be an independent investigatory committee set up to look at how the utility fund has been mismanaged, or managed, I should say. And second, that there be a moratorium on any further hikes until we have an honest assessment of what this fund has in it and what's happened with this fund. We're tired of having the brunt of all of this mismanagement.
Well, first off, I agree that everything could use a second look, and conditions may have changed when first off, the rate increase that we're experiencing the last 2 years, there hadn't been a rate increase since 2009. And before that, there hadn't been rate increases. And frequently, the utilities have been running a deficit where the cost of operation was greater than what the monies received. The thing is that these problems accumulate. And one of the things that I've heard over again, and I've been here 35 years. 35 years ago, electricity was 3.5 cents to 4 cents a kilowatt hour. So I did a little analysis of what changed. Well, since '82, when I moved here to today, if the electricity, the charge was 3.5 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour, and we plugged that into the Google machine for inflation, what would be the rate today for a comparable service? And the miracle of Google comes back and tells us your rate is now 10 cents a kilowatt hour, which is approximately what it is. The other thing that changed, though, in 1982 when I moved here, we were buying power from the dam for 0.4 cents per kilowatt hour. 0.4. We're getting it for free. And today we have a new contract with the United States government for power from the dam, and it's around 4 cents. So it's a tenfold increase in the raw cost of the energy from the dam. But we don't get all of the energy from the dam. We get all the energy from the dam maybe in April when our usage is down, which is about 28 megawatts, which is our allocation. But in July, we use probably an equal amount of power. And thanks to our city utility department being able to negotiate the formation of a new cooperative, the Silver State Energy Cooperative, instead of buying power from Nevada Power, which is owned by the other Warren Buffett, over the hill, we're buying it from this cooperative through the WAPA, Western Area Power Administration, and paying a little bit more than 4 cents a kilowatt hour. So our cost of that extra energy has been severely reduced. Yet again, there's where does all the money go? And it's a interesting thing looking at inflation versus what the cost was then versus now. So it's not out of case. But in terms of moratorium, that's a pretty heavy lift, one which I cannot commit to. But I think one of the things, again, we need to have the input from the people. And if we put together this committee and eventually, looking at our advisory committee, we got a Parks and Rec advisory, we got an airport advisory, we've got an allocation advisory. We got all these advisory, I think 6 or 7 advisory committees that are actually in the charter that the council appoints. But the biggest single expenditure that's kind of independent is the utilities, and yet there's no citizen direct oversight other than council. And I can tell you that in the past, I don't believe we had many electrical engineers on council. So, but you do now. So, let's say, Sue, get the.
Anyone in particular, Warren?
Pardon?
Anyone in particular you'd like to?
There's a lady in the back there who's vigorously raising her hand. We'll try to get to as many as possible.
Here we go.
All right, first off, I just have a couple comments. There is no reason why our utility rate should have doubled. None whatsoever. I could understand a raise, but not when our utility bills will double. And another thing, where's all the money go from the utility fund? Where is the money that's been siphoning out of there? That's what happened to the money in the utility department. I want to know why we get all this money that comes from out there at the power, the solar plants, the leases, that our utility rates are probably higher than Henderson and Las Vegas now, and they never used to be. That was one thing about living up here. Our utility rates were low, and now they're higher than everybody else.
Well, I beg to disagree with you. We actually have charts available with the actual cost.
Well, I know. I have.
We are all paying those.
We actually have the cost as prepared by Mr. Dwyer is what the relative costs were. They are also published in the newspaper. And the newspaper neglected to have the surcharge for, I believe, Nevada Energy. Is that correct, Mr. Dwyer? So that number seems lower. But they're all comparable. They're within a penny of each other, essentially. And Nevada Energy is substantially higher than what the Boulder City rate is. Again, I'm not defending the city. I'm telling you what the facts are. And the facts are that we still enjoy lower rates. In fact, we also enjoy lower rates than some of the other municipal utilities that are in southern Nevada. Is that correct, Mr. Dwyer? Yes, we do.
Why did City Council went ahead and changed the rate?
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. So
I think it's time City Council.
I can't hear what you're saying.
It's time City Council went back and redid those rates, because there is no reason our rates should be as high as they are.
Well, again, I'm not going to defend the city. And one of the things I've said in the past about my position, I will not defend the indefensible, but first it has to be you have to have a defendable position. The defendable position is based upon facts. And facts are what they're going to deal with. Unfortunately, there's a lot of emotion in this, and I can understand it. But again, we have to rely on facts. And the facts are, at least that are presented to me, are the rates are lower than what our neighbors are in terms of our rates. I'd like to speak separately regarding solar. I've got an issue regarding that.
Warren, hang on a second. Okay, first off, this is a meeting that's being held for the public, but you've monopolized the conversation.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I have to apologize. I have a hearing loss, so I can't hear what you're saying. So I can't respond to what I can't hear.
My name is Greg Todd. I've worked out here for 25 years for the City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. I have been retired for 2 years. The City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power is a municipality just like this one. Therefore, it is not for profit. Okay, number two, really quick. With all the new meters going in, I recommend strongly that City Council entertain a motion to freeze the electric rates until all the meters have been installed and everything settles down. Because if you're using 28 megawatt of electricity, okay, the meters had better balance out to 28 megawatt, otherwise somebody's skimming electricity off of our system. Okay, that's all I have.
Rory Dwyer. In fact, our energy purchases will never equal our energy sales because there are system losses.
That's correct, but those losses, because I used to engineer them, can be factored into the bill. In other words, I know what the losses are.
Well, they are factored in. We have our.
You don't have any humidity out here. You don't have any dirty insulators that are arcing across. You might have a couple. You can go to polymer. Trust me, I've been doing this for 28 years. I'm now retired. I have plenty of time on my hands to help the city of Boulder City. And oh, by the way, I'm not an engineer. I've done it by the seat of my pants.
Well, your input would be valuable on this proposed committee, I'm sure. And look forward to your comments on it.
Where else?
Okay.
Warren?
Yes.
Where?
Right here.
My name is Barbara Polk. I have the financials from the quarter ending September 30th. In these financials, the expenses and the revenues are equal. The only income that is not explained to me is a total of other financing for $5.6 million, and then they're bringing in $3.6 million of the pool funds. Our pool funds total $18 million. This budget, with the expenses that balance the revenue, all revenue except for those two items, includes $8 million for projects. So I don't know why it's being said that we have to raise our rates because of projects. The projects are budgeted for. The revenue balances. I don't know why they're borrowing more money. It says other revenues. In addition, there was a bond issued in 2006 for over $33 million. In the 10 years, they have paid down about $6 million. We are paying over $1 million a year on the principal, and $1.1 million on the interest. We have these reserves. Pay down some of that bond. You can save 20% on the interest, and instead of paying it off till 2041, we'll reduce that time.
Okay, well, first off, in regards to your question regarding the reserves and so forth, we don't have anybody here that can answer with authority what the finance situation is. And what I want to commit to, that any of the questions that have a soft or a non-answer, which there have been a couple already, will be answered. And what I've done is I created a Facebook page called BC Utility Users, which will be available with the answers to questions that are unanswered, and which will also have information that people want to add information or add questions, so there'll be a follow-on. I'm not prepared right now. I'm not a finance guy, believe me. You can take a look at my net worth and that'll prove it. And so the issue of finances, I would have to defer to our finance department and the folks at our finance director. Did you want to speak regarding that bond issue? I didn't think you did. Yeah.
Well, that's, if the bond is related to our raw water line, being an electric guy, I'm really not the person to ask that question to.
All right, so we'll have more information for you. There's no intention to hide anything or to subvert. What I feel very strongly about is transparency, and that's why we're all sitting here tonight, is the fact that I felt that there was a need to get more information out. There's a lot of misinformation, and there's also a lack of knowledge by our city leaders of what the public is feeling. So it's important for this type of two-way thing to take place. So that's why we're all sitting here. So the outcome will be ongoing, and this is not going to be the be-all and end-all. And well, we've let off that steam, so we can go on to the next thing. No, there'll be a real output from this and real change, I think, which is what we're all looking for. Next, I want to speak about the solar thing, because that's one thing I heard many times over again. And how come we have all these solar farms out there, and how come we can't get some of that sweet solar juice to fall into our system? And if we don't have any way of getting that power, why don't we make our own power? We're here, the sun shines almost every day, and you get a beer when it doesn't. So how come we don't have our own solar power? So I looked into that. And I looked into the state of the art for solar farms, and turns out that there's been a reduction of 80% in cost of putting these in place. And now it costs about $1 a watt to build a solar farm. And so what we need to do is then, how many watts do we need? Well, the truth is in April we don't need any. But in July we need maybe 20 to 28 megawatts of power. Megawatts, that's millions. That's $28 billion. So right now, we got a $28 million base cost for the solar farm to supply us with power in July. Now, if we want the thing to last for 20 years, we got to build another 5 to 10 megawatts because of the deterioration of the panels over that period of time. So now we're maybe up to $35 million to build this plant, which we can do on our own land, wouldn't cost anything. But with $35 million for the solar panels, inverters, switchgear, and so forth, and then we got to run it. And then when we're going to run it, it's going to cost us, with all the people to run it, it's going to cost us about 4 cents a kilowatt hour to run. Well, hold on a second. We can buy for a little bit more than 4 cents an hour the power from Silver State Energy Cooperative, from Wampa, and we don't need to spend that $38 million, which of course would be about $45 million when you add the financing, because we don't have $38 million yet in our utility fund to pay for a solar farm. So the solar farm doesn't make sense because of economics. Well, how come those guys in the valley, how could they do what they're doing? Well, they're doing what they're doing because California mandates that the utilities in California buy renewable power, and they have to pay as much as 19-20 cents a kilowatt hour for that energy. Now, we don't want to buy that power at 20 cents a kilowatt hour when we can get it for about 4 cents from our energy cooperative that we're a member of, that we're really a founding member of, if I'm correct. We, along with the Southern Nevada Water District and the City of Overton and Lincoln County, we're in a cooperative where we can buy, as a group, the power from the grid at the wholesale rates, which, much to the dismay of Warren Buffett, who is no longer receiving our money at Nevada Energy, they say millions, isn't that true that it's in the millions of dollars have been saved by that move alone. So that was a smart move by our utility. So the other question is, okay, well, we could still build our own power company, our own solar power, and let's us sell it to the Californians for 20 cents a kilowatt hour. That sounds really wonderful and great, except for a couple different things, and I looked into this. I think if we did build that thing, and we spent the $40 million to build our own solar facility, and then we're going to sell it to California, you know, who we'd be in competition with? We'd be in competition with the folks that are supplying 25% of our general fund revenue. Now, what do you think they would think about that, being competitors with the city in terms of providing the power? The other thing is that assumes also that we have the expertise to sell power to the California electric utilities, which begs the question of whether we have the expertise to even sell land in Boulder City to developers. So it's a stretch to think that we're going to be able to break into that market and sell into California and make a killing on it. But it was worth a look. The thing is, it doesn't pencil out. It doesn't make economic sense. So as much as we would like to be heroes and develop the power or whatever, I think from our standpoint, what would be a more advantageous thing to look into is a storage facility. A municipally owned storage facility is the future. This is some things that we could look at and develop and make money on, and it would be complementary to the dam and to the solar field, and as well, what's coming, maybe coming because council action is not only will we have a center for hydropower, which is Hoover Dam, and also some dams in Salt Lake, which supply us some power, but also the folks down at the solar fields, which provide about a quarter of our general revenue falling out of the sky. But also in the future, we may have wind power termination here with a high voltage DC line that's coming from, I believe, Montana, that will be a terminus down at the switch yards in El Dorado Valley. So we'll have kind of the triad of renewable energy here in Boulder City with a salute to wind power, solar power, and hydropower right here in clean green Boulder City. Makes us even cleaner and greener. So that's what's coming in the future.
Okay, here we have a question here, Warren.
Okay, go ahead.
Here we go.
So to summarize the last 5 minutes, I think what you said is renewable energy just isn't cost effective. That's what I got out of that.
I'm sorry?
That was just a comment. So my question, by show of hands, how many bills are here? How many of your bills are more than $300 a month?
Right, 3 times that.
So, okay, I'm right there with you. Is there any chance that our electric meters are adding too much? They're reading too high, they're defective, they're reading too high instead of too low?
I would say that there's always a chance it could be off. However, the company that,
97.
do you know, I think it was 0.05%?
All right. Well, let me explain why I'm asking the question. We live in a small house, maybe 1,600 square feet. I had all my pool equipment replaced with energy efficient equipment, had both of my air conditioners rebuilt, got a new water heater, got rid of the spa, and then I got a new widescreen TV, but that was just a gift, so. But it's energy efficient. Case in point, my bill is just under $1,000 a month this summer, and we took 3 weeks vacation. We were gone. So what's wrong with my bill if it's just been a rate increase?
There appears to be something wrong. We have an energy conservation specialist. His name is Skip Spillman. Please contact him. I have his number and his email that I can give you offline.
Okay, great.
And he will be glad to take a look at it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, $1,000 a month, that's rich. I know one of the things that a lot of people are feeling the pinch of today is the fact that our energy costs are so cheap. Our electricity was so inexpensive. It didn't make sense to conserve. It didn't make sense to consider alternatives. But now it isn't cheap anymore, and we're paying for a lot of the sins of our forefathers here, of not keeping pace with our deteriorating electric system as it should have been. It's, and the question has been raised about the mismanagement or management of our capital funds or whatever. And in the past, there has been, loans from the utility fund to fund golf courses and so forth, and that just left a very bad taste in people's mouths. And I think it's these are poor decisions. But again, these are things in the past which I hope will never be repeated, and they've got to stand on their own. But in questions regarding what can I do regarding, besides just energy conservation, I brought some props. And the first prop is, if you don't trust your meter or you want to find out, this is a device that, you notice the size of it, goes on your meter. It's a battery-powered unit that reads the meter in real time. And what this device does, it transmits the information to this handheld device, which tells you the current energy consumption of the meter. Now, there's a way that you can actually do that by observing the LED that flashes in this meter here. And it's a complicated procedure, but this is all battery-powered electronic, sends it to here, and you can read instantaneously what the power is. So what you can do is you can go through your house and turn off things and find out what is a big consumer of energy. Where is my air conditioning the unit? Is what I found is that the biggest consumer of wasteful energy in my house was an old refrigerator that's sitting in the garage. Probably the worst place for a second refrigerator, the garage. But it was, over a period of time, I could have bought a new refrigerator as opposed to using the old refrigerator as a surplus. So this is a device, and it's $70. And there's a sheet, I printed out some sheets out there from Amazon. You can get this, and you can actually, if you're a high school graduate, you can probably put this in without any problem. It doesn't take any technical skills. There's another add-on unit that you can get. This is part of it. And what this does is it takes information that was transmitted from that device and converts it into a Wi-Fi node on your house network. And it comes with a real neat software package with some dials, and nerds like me love this kind of stuff. You can look and see what your instantaneous energy is. And this is a little bit more expensive. I think it's around $100. But it means that from any computer in your house, you can find out what your instantaneous energy reading is on your meter, what's going on in the meter. Now, there's another thing that you can do to find the zombie power in the house. Let me see if I can find this thing. This is an old one, it's already yellowed. This is called a kilowatt. And as you see, you plug it into a wall outlet, and then the device only works on 110, so this is not going to work for air conditioners. But what this will do is you plug in your radio or your TV or Mixmaster or toaster or whatever, and it'll read out the actual energy consumption that device is using. So what you can find then is you can find devices that are, you thought, in this day and age, you find that when you turn something off in your house, you might not necessarily turn it off, especially TV and solid-state electronics. They stay on because, the instant on thing is which one they can write on. Well, that's because they're always on. There's always an energy usage, and depending how many of these devices you have in your house, these instant on devices, you have zombie power. You have zombie power being sucked out of the mains without you really knowing it. Another big energy wastrel is wall warts. Now, wall warts are the devices that come almost everywhere. Everybody's phones have got a battery charger or a little black thing that plugs into the wall outlet, and these things are intended to, charge a razor. All of our electronics today use these wall warts. And depending on the quality of the wall wart, some of them are UL approved and some of them, curiously, are not UL approved. The ones that are not UL approved that seem to come from Asia are extremely inefficient. In fact, you can tell just by feeling them that they're giving off heat, and even when they're not plugged into the razor, they're not plugged into the phone or the watch or whatever that they're designed for, they're using energy. So you've got zombie power. You say, well, okay, it's only 10 watts or 15 watts, but you take 10 or 15 of those, that's like leaving a light on overnight. And I know that back in the old days, my mother would beat me for leaving the light on overnight. So it's a way of, again, finding out where is the energy going, and there's no sense just throwing it away, which in many cases these devices do. So I've got the sheets back there. I'm not a particular.
Can we get on to
Councilman, it is 6:50. It is 6:50, Councilman.
Okay. Thank you. Well, wait, one more question.
Question? Okay.
Warren, first of all, thank you for doing this. Secondly, I appreciate two members being here. To me, the solution here is fairly obvious. There are a number of hidden costs that have nothing to do with utilities that are on the utility bills. So for 3 members of the city council who are here tonight, all you need to do is say the utility bills will only relate to the utility bills. There can be no other costs for anything else. So the utility bill should only be the direct cost plus a capital account, which probably could be no more than 10 or 20% beyond what already is. The new increases are actually considerably more than that because other things are paid for in, quote, the utility bills. If those are things that the city needs to pay for, fine. But don't call them part of the utility bill because they're not. So 3 members of the city council are here. Let's just have the city council vote and say the utility bills are only for the utilities and the capital expenses and nothing else. Thank you.
Well, I really do appreciate the input, and I apologize that we only have an hour to do this, because I know there's pent-up questions and folks that feel shortchanged for not being able to answer, but here's what I'm going to fill out the comment cards. That's number 1. But 2, I brought some of my business cards with my email address on it. If you don't already have it, take a business card. Again, I promise if you write me, I will respond and I will answer your questions. Now, the people who are going to leave early, they're going to miss out on the handout that I have available for you. Surprise handout. But comment cards, there will be a follow-on. I hope that we have resolved, or we've gotten some information from all of you that we can to use. I remind you that on Saturdays between 2 and 4 I'm at the Starbucks, and we have a nice roundtable on issues facing the city. So if you want to make yourself available for that, or just call me or email me. Now, one of the complaints I heard about the last city meeting that they held was that, as we remember back at the land management meeting, where they had the red and green dots to supply your input. Well, then the last meeting, somebody complained there were no dots the last meeting. So as you leave, pick up a box of dots, courtesy of me. But please contact me. Pleased to have you here. It's important for me to hear and work for these folks to hear your input. Look forward to working for you in the future. Thank you. Good night.
Very good to see you. Good to see you.
taking pictures, are you?
Yes. Eddie, what's your thoughts? Hi, Sharon. Hi, Alan.
You know, you're just the stone of
I'm going to video you right now. Hold on, there he is. Rudy Kraft, the notorious one and only. Do you like the meeting?
How you doing? Your beard's coming along really well.